Is it any?
Coilovers give you adjustability. So if you want any kind
it?
of appearance change, the coilovers are going to give you a better source of appearance change.
So you mean dropping the car?
At the entry point. So like when you do shocks and springs, you can get a much better set of shocks and springs than you can get a cheap coilover. But you get adjustability with the coilovers that you don't get on the shocks and springs. If you do shocks and springs, you're stuck with what you get. So
Shocks and springs, though, for let's say somebody who's after performance on the track or autocross, is that what people go for over coilovers, or it varies?
it depends on what your price point is. Because at the lower price points, you can usually get a better shock and spring package than you can get a performance coilover.
So
A true performance coilover usually starts in the mid $2,000 range
for the set.
for the setup, and that's kind of the entry point for a true performance coilover solution. Anything that's cheaper than $2,000 is usually you're compromising on
Subpar.
something pretty majorly.
Right.
You can get the cheapest one that I can think of that I'm familiar with is KW. They make a ST series of coilover, which is cheaper componentry but the same shock stuff, so more prone to rust. It's not coated the same way. The springs aren't, anodized and coated, and so it's more vulnerable to weather and not as good for street cars. But if you're just looking for the shock performance, it's there. It's a little bit cheaper, and they're like $1,500.
Well, 2,000 doesn't sound too bad, but you mentioned 6,000. That sounds bad.
Well, that's if you want to go with like 10
Then I would